And we are back once again with Epic Land Day 2. I'm Red Dane. I'm back again with my pal here.
Bromaria, excited to be here.
Yeah, nice to join me for a nice PvT here between RosscO and Raza, which will be starting shortly. And so this will be probably the closest Codes match that we've had today, I think, so far. RosscO and Raza, both GM level players, a nice PvT. The PvT meta, obviously, at the moment has been, I think, stable for a little while, although Hero's mixing things up a little bit with lots of tempo-based plays. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And Raza certainly comes in with his own unique style as well, which, you know, is not necessarily a full meta player. So I'm interested to see what he's going to bring out this game.
Yeah, and obviously going into this, Raza is going to be the favorite quite a bit. He's the favorite to sort of win the whole tournament, and RosscO definitely an underdog, but RosscO has shown us, you know, he's capable of upsetting. He upset Zane yesterday, and so why don't we jump into this and introduce our players. So in the bottom right-hand corner, playing for Gen GX, I'm not sure what that actually stands for, to be honest.
Genesis.
Genesis Gaming, it is Raza!
And spawning in the top left position as the green Protoss, playing for the Red Dragons, it's RosscO.
Gotta say, I've really been enjoying watching RosscO play. I've watched a lot more of his games at this tournament than I've seen in the past, and pretty impressed with what he brings to the table. He's a very solid player. Like the way he plays PvZ, likes to go for that adept build, you know, not doing builds that are pretty exciting and dynamic, so love to see it.
Yeah, he's a really exciting player. You know, his fundamentals are there, he's really strong. He's about 5.4k MMR, I believe, at the moment, maybe a bit higher. So it's quite a good matchup, this, as you said earlier.
Interesting to see how he's decided to place his pylons at the start, not trying to do any kind of funky wall off to stop the Reaper. He's put his gateway in a relatively aggressive position here, so I mean, you could see him trying to get an adept out pretty early to put on some pressure and put the battery in the mineral line, or he could just decide that this is just the way he likes to play it.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I was watching Raza play a couple of warm-up games before this, and he really liked to go for double Reaper. So without that Reaper wall there going up, we'll have to see how he's going to respond to that.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit annoying to deal with the Reapers. Obviously, it's your Protoss units in the beginning just don't have the mobility to actually, you know, be in every place at once. I mean, the Adept is as close as you get to that, but even then it's a bit finicky sometimes. And 2 Reapers in the hands of someone as skilled as Raza can do untold amounts of damage. So kind of makes sense that he would be going for that. I'm not sure if he would go against that against like, a Zane, but who knows?
We did lose with his scouting probe there, so RosscO's a bit at a disadvantage here because he's not going to be able to actually see what first unit's coming out of the barracks of Raza. And that's pretty crucial information, whether it's going to be the Reaper or the Marine, because it delays the factory or it's a quicker factory. So actually getting that scouting probe that early is a nice pick off for Raza.
Yeah, and you really don't want to, you shouldn't really lose that early on. And it looks like it's not going to be double Reaper from Raza. It's going to be the Reaper Marine with the bunker. So playing it, I think as this is a relatively safe version, right? Not trying to go straight into a reactor or anything like that. It's going to be able to deny and not worry too much about the pressure of this Adept. So this Adept is going to be sent right across the map. And as I predicted, he's going to be getting that battery down just in time in the mineral line, which is going to completely deflect that Reaper. And it's going to be a Twilight Council opener. I don't think any surprises there from RosscO. Didn't expect him to go for anything funky like a Stargate or anything else, but it's going to be the factory opening from Raza, and the RosscO is going to be just being really annoying with his first Adept here. So it's going to actually delay the natural expansion of Raza. So frustrating as a Terran player to have to deal with this. You only have the one Marine. The Hellion is on its way out, but we don't actually have any Marines building for
the Reaper
Raza.
actually gets into the main base as well, so he's actually going to get a full scout off here. And pick off another SCV. So a great start here by RosscO.
And actually, this Marine is at like 1 HP. I mean, you just like breathe on him and he's gonna die. And so already this Adept has already killed 3 workers. So actually, really nice advantage there. Although Raza has killed 2 workers at some point himself, so it's not like it's the biggest deal for RosscO. It's been a little bit of a bloodbath already, back and forth killing workers here. So if you're a worker for either of these, you need to talk to your union, because there are no workplace safety regulations.
Certainly not. And I guess the next thing that we're going to see from RosscO as he drops actually the Robo Bay.
Yeah, interesting to see the 2-base Robo build come out. I think this is a really nice way to just make sure that you are going to live against any kind of push, right? You're not going to try for a super early third. I would love to see RosscO go for like a sort of a 2-base Colossus or something like that. I know it's a little bit outdated, but I do like that. I think it makes you pretty safe, and we're going to see how many gateways he actually ends up going up to. I think he's just going to be sticking on, I guess, 3 gateways for now, this third one being a little bit late, so don't think we're going to see any massive, you know, all-in or anything like that, but just going to have a healthy amount of Blink Stalkers to make sure that he's able to repel any Terran aggression.
Yeah, definitely, and we see the Widowmine drop, I believe, going up into RosscO's main base. So this is really the first proper type of aggression that we're coming from Raza. So it'd be really interesting to see how RosscO's going to react to this.
And yeah, RosscO does have Stalkers sort of in the middle between his 2 bases. He's hedging his bets, but he has absolutely no vision on this side of the map. And this Widowmine drop is going to come in basically unscouted. The Stalkers are coming in, but it's 11 seconds until Blink is finished. But there is a preemptive drone pull from RosscO, but I think he's not going to realize that there was actually a Widowmine there. So actually, quite a few workers go down there. I think that brings it up to 10 worker kills. And so that's going to mean that Raza actually takes the worker lead in this game, which, along with Mules, obviously, is going to put the Protoss in a little bit of a bad spot.
And importantly, Raza actually managed to save a Medivac with a Widowmine. I mean, it's very low, so it's not really going to get much done in the future, but RosscO has to have that in the back of his mind just to be careful of it.
Yeah, and it's going to be really frustrating for RosscO, because now I think he's going to feel like, okay, now it's my turn. I know that Medivac is pretty low. I'm going to try and go and do some counter damage on the other end of the map, but Raza looks pretty prepared for this. It's going to be hard. He's already got the Raven, so he's going to be able to chase away the Observer. There's not a lot of tanks out just yet. There's a tank on the low ground, so there is a small window here where if RosscO committed hard into it, he might be able to get into the base of Raza and do a little bit of damage. But his window is closing, because as soon as this tank comes out, it's going to make things a lot harder.
Yeah, his natural is pretty really well defended. There's not going to be much chance of RosscO to actually break into there, as he's about to find out.
Yeah, I think he's going to realize with that Observer that actually this is not a great idea. And Raza isn't actually making the second tank, though. As I say that, he actually only has the 1 tank, and he's going to rely purely on Marine Marauder to defend against this, but there's no Stimpak just yet, so there is still a time where RosscO could get in and do some damage, but obviously he doesn't realize, he doesn't have the perfect vision of what's in the main, so instead he's just going to take the third of his own. He's going to transition and try and stabilize and make sure that he's on point with his macro before he tries anything super aggressive, which I think is a safer play. I think it would have been nice to see him take a bit of a risk, but he's just going to go for the safety play and instead try and get the Warp Prism in there, probably warp in some Adepts or something just to be annoying here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if he'd have gone for the more 4-gate rather than 3-gate style Blink, of course he wasn't to know, but he'd have been able to jump into the base and delay that stim timing, which would have been crucial. But as it happened, we're just going to maybe get some harass in the main base. He's not quite sure he knows what to do with it.
So it looks like Raza still doesn't have vision of this. He's going to drop down the 3rd CC, but I don't really see RosscO using this for anything. I think he just has it here as an option. But I mean, I can't imagine that Raza's going to allow him to keep this Warp Prism here for a very long time. So at some point he will scout it. But RosscO has big problems. He needs to realize that there's a massive group of Marine Marauders coming out. This push from Raza is absolutely terrifying.
But now's the time to warp into the main base. Now that Raza's pushing out, as we see the slow Zealots going in.
Yeah, and I really like this from RosscO, realizing, okay, I'm just going to do this as soon as you move out, and the time is now. There is a 3rd base building from Raza, but this push is still going to be absolutely terrifying. And even with the 1 tank, with the Widowmines, everything else, RosscO is relying on pure gateway units with a single Immortal to actually hold off against this, and all of those Zealots are already going to get shredded. There's no charge, and there's no charge even on the way. It's pure Blink Stalkers. There isn't even a battery here. The tanks are shelling these Stalkers, and it is absolute carnage here at the Protoss 3rd base. With that pylon going down, there's no way for RosscO to hold the space, and I think Raza smells blood. He's actually just going to chase down these Stalkers, realizing there's absolutely no way. Is charge finished already? It looks like it might be, so these chargeless are going to come in and save the day, but Raza's just going to pick up and leave.
Yeah, great timing there by Raza. He really defended the little bit of aggression in his main base at the same time, but he just struck before charge was done, before the 3rd base was really established with that static defense and the batteries, and yeah, just a crisp timing.
There's a nice little pickup there from RosscO to make sure that those medevacs go down, and now these overstimmed bio units are meeting in the middle of the map. There's this tiny little gateway army that is overextended into the middle of the map, but it looks like they're going to be able to trade relatively effectively against this, but this is what RosscO needs. He needs to make sure that he gets so much army that he's able to do some kind of counter push here, but without an observer on the map, he's not able to even clean up these mines, and as Raza's army consolidates in the middle of the map, I think round 2 of Protoss Pain is on its way shortly.
Yeah, and even if he was able to stabilise here, he's still down a base, he's still down an upgrade. It's looking pretty dire for RosscO, unfortunately, as it is.
Yeah, and with the pure Zealot composition of RosscO trying to go into this massive Widowmine little ball here, even with these splits, they're just going to get absolutely shredded. The Bio's going to clean this up, and now RosscO frantically trying to warp in to give him a chance to just not die here, but it's going to be a GG, and game 1 going to Raza.
Yeah, excellent first game there by Raza. A nice, crisp timing. You know, you could see that his build was thought out. He knew what he was going to do, and RosscO just didn't have an answer for it.
Yeah, we saw some really nice things from RosscO there overall. We saw him, try and do some counter damage with the Warp Prism. I really like the timing and the mentality there of I'm going to wait until I see your push out, and then I'm going to warp in. I'm not going to bother sending anything in before then. Those little things are really nice to see. Unfortunately, we saw quite a few probes go down to that Widowmine. There's a little bit of a mismicro there, misread on when and where the Widowmines were. So Raza showing that he's able to get that damage done, and I think really that was the story of the game. Losing 10 probes is pretty much GG early on.
Yeah, and we saw from the Reaper and one Alien, they also picked up 4 worker kills at the start of the game as well, which really, that sort of damage shouldn't be happening. So I'd like to see that being cleaned up in this next match, and push him into that mid game in a bit of a better.
And all that being said, even with all of that, there still was a window, I feel, for RosscO to jump in and do some damage. But we are back into game 2 here between RosscO and Raza, and Raza is currently up 1-0. We have our beautiful red Terran in the top right hand of 2,000 atmospheres. He is Raza.
And spawning in the bottom left position of the green Protoss, looking to bring it back into a 1-1, it's RosscO.
I think it needs to be said that RosscO, he made a game out of it, didn't he?
He certainly did. And when you're playing that sort of style without any AoE abilities, without that quick Colossus, you really need to be on point with your kiting back with the Stalkers, with the warping with the Zealots in the main base. And with the damage that he took initially in the early game, he just wasn't able to quite get that when he needed it, if that makes sense. So the playstyle was great, and you could see what he was trying to do. It just wasn't quite, what it needed to be, unfortunately.
One of the things in the early game that was nice from RosscO is he actually had a successful build opener. He managed to delay the natural. He managed to get the adept there. He managed to get quite a few kills, and so he actually showed there that he wasn't completely outclassed in the early game micro battle by Raza, which is really nice to see. However, it was the follow-up to that. It was the transition, so hopefully he can manage to get that damage done once again, but unfortunately Raza is going to be going for something that is going to be frustrating to deal with, I think. He's already managed to get the engineering bay. He's going to get it up to like 99%, and then he's going to leave. I guess he's not. He's going to make a liar out of me immediately, but he's going to make it really annoying for RosscO to take his natural expansion.
He's just going to take out the third base. It was such a late scout of the engineering block that you don't really have an option there to pull the probes to delay the engineering bay. He does actually get to see the factory going down,
which is really nice. And this was actually a gas first from Raza, so it means that he's able to get pretty much everything he needs straight away. So he's getting the reactor and the Hellions, and I think we could see a Hellion drop here as a potential harassment tool. But
I'd agree, and this is one of the downsides of taking that your natural base in the third position, is that you are really vulnerable to these kinds of plays. We're going to actually see the proxy starports here as well, and I seem to remember I believe it was Cure did this against Parting in the GSL a couple of seasons ago to great effect. Because Protoss don't have too many units at the start of the game, at least not mobile units. So getting defenses in your main base and getting defenses in your third base, it's just pretty much impossible.
And it's one of the things that can trade really, really well against this kind of build is the Stargate. But I think it's obvious that RosscO, he realizes that this is a good idea so that he can stop this, right? He didn't do, he went Blink in the first game, but I think because he had that good scout, because he saw the gas first opening, he's going to make that adjustment. He's going to go for the Oracle first to make sure that he can scout and make sure he 100% understands what's going on. But there is already a medevac on the way with 4 Hellions nearly finished for Raza. And Raza doesn't even have his natural expansion yet. So if you are RosscO in this position, you kind of have to be scared, right? You have to be realizing that there's something coming very quickly. He does have the right tech to deal with it. It's just a matter of how he uses it.
Yeah, and he's got a full scout of everything except the proxy starport, so he knows what's coming his way. So it's just a matter of whether or not he knows how to defend it.
And with the battery in the main, with the Phoenix coming out, I think he's being maybe a little bit aggressive with the positioning of these units. He's sending in the Oracle, but he really needs to keep these units in his main base because he doesn't have any units defending his main. So even though there is a battery here, and even though that is really nice, once these Hellions start blasting these probes down, the battery is going to make no difference. And already, probes are going down, frantically pulling. The Phoenix does come out to lift one of the Hellions, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Battery overcharge there, but battery overcharge isn't going to save you from one-shotting Hellions.
But on the other side of the map, we do see 8 SCVs going down to the 1 Oracle.
Yeah, so actually, I might eat my words here as this Oracle goes in and does absolutely massive amounts of damage. It's an absolute bloodbath between both of these players, and the Hellions are still alive, and so is the Medevac. The Adepts are trying to chase these, but with the pickup micro from Raza, so many probes are still going down. So far, 8 units killed for RosscO, but Raza killing 15 probes this early in the game, and the 3 Hellions are still alive. RosscO not even pulling his probes at this point, just relying on the power of Adepts and the battery to keep him alive. But ultimately, when the dust settles, we've got 18 workers killed from that opener. So frustrating to deal with as a Protoss when you've got these 2 bases that can just be abused.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the thing that's saving RosscO is that Raza's natural isn't even landed yet. He's making SCVs in the main base, but he's not actually getting that economic value from having that second base yet. So RosscO's still well in this.
Yeah, so because he was able to get a lot of kills with that Oracle as well, I think, yeah, he's not feeling as bad as he could, and ultimately the infrastructure for Raza isn't as good as it could be, right? He's got a tech lab on his factory, he's got 3 Cyclones coming out, but he doesn't even have the Magfield Accelerator, and actually this could have been really frustrating if he blocks this. Is he still going to be able to land his natural? It looks like he will, just barely, but that Stasis Ward could have actually been really frustrating.
Yeah, I thought that's what he was going for initially, to be honest, with the Stasis Ward there. But I think now we're going to have to see what RosscO's game plan is going to be, whether or not he's going to drop that Twilight Council.
Yeah, he hasn't really done any more tech, has he? He's got the 3rd base, and he's going to try to defend with just gateway units for now. He does drop the Twilight, but yeah, no upgrades on the way, so both of these players just slinging mud at each other in the dirt, not going to the higher tech units, just making whatever they can to kill as many probes or SCVs as possible. So there's a battery at this base, there's a couple sentries, but I think Raza may be feeling like he can push out with just the small number of Marines and Cyclones, and that would actually be kind of scary to deal with if you are RosscO at this point.
Yeah, definitely, but I think RosscO's fortunate that Raza doesn't have the information we do because, as we could see, I think a push now would be pretty deadly. But I think Raza's just going to sit back, he's going to get his upgrades, Combat Shield and Stim, and then go for a push after that.
Unfortunately, maybe a little bit of an overextension with these Phoenix. One does go down, and I don't think he's going to want to make too many more. I mean, he's still continuing to produce Phoenix because that's the only thing he's really got, but it's going to be basically mass charge lots along with Phoenix at this point, and just hoping that maybe Raza overextends once charge is finished. But as we can see, charge isn't actually done yet. It's just starting. So any push that Raza does before charge is finished, he's going to be relying purely on just gateway units with Phoenix, which is going to be really terrifying. And it looks like Raza does have somewhat of a handle on this. He's going to go for the push, but he doesn't, I don't know if he sort of realizes how good of a push this is going to be. The charge is nowhere near finished. It's about halfway done. It's being chrono boosted. So if Raza were to go straight away, so RosscO just going to try his best to get as many units as possible to defend this.
Yeah, RosscO needs to delay this if he can. That's not one way to do it. But Raza's just going to go into the natural here. He's undefended. There's no batteries there, and this is going to be an incredibly difficult all without charge.
Yeah, charge is still just about to finish, but as soon as Raza gets the position here, it's going to be so difficult. Coming from multiple sides is RosscO. He's got a
really
Colossus, nice force fields. Everything is going to be dying, but the Cyclones are still alive, and it looks like so are the Marines. A Guardian Shield is down, and they are going to be able to walk into the battery, but that is a fake Colossus. I don't know if Raza realizes that. It doesn't look like he's been focus firing it or anything, so not a huge deal, but such a precarious situation. I think this base is almost certainly going to go down. RosscO going to try to come in from the multiple angles, but the 3rd base does go down, and reinforcements from Raza coming in from the back. It looks like there's enough Terran to overwhelm this, and it is going to be a 2-0 for Raza.
Yeah, I feel that second game was a bit unfortunate for RosscO, really. He never really got into his game plan or how he wanted to play. And Yeah, he just unfortunately didn't have charge there at the end. I think charge would have made a difference. He had some really nice force fields, but unfortunately the timing again was just too crisp by Raza.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have to say, considering the MMR difference between these guys, RosscO definitely made a couple of games out of it. But Raza, I think game two or day two of Epic Land, he comes to play. You know, sometimes we see Raza falter a little bit on day one, doesn't show his best games, but you know he is going to make the most out of it. So it actually, I misspoke. It is a best of five, so there is going to be at least one more game here because this is now into the semifinals of the upper bracket. So we are ready, and we are going to be going into game three here between RosscO and Raza. Raza is going to try and 3-0 RosscO here. RosscO, fighting for his upper bracket life, is going to try to take a game off of Raza. I would love to see something especially cheesy from RosscO. I don't think he's that kind of player, but I always say this. I just want him to do something. You're on the line. You're at the last, you know, you've kind of tried the macro game against Raza multiple times.
Yeah, I think even something like opening a Colossus drop or something similar, where you're getting that early AoE, because Raza does quite like going into that 3 racks quite quick and getting the combat shield and stim. And I think the Colossus opening will be really beneficial against that for him.
Yeah, I'd love to see him do something really stable like that. But let's introduce our players here. In the bottom right-hand corner of Curious Minds LE, it is RosscO.
And spawning in the top left position on match point, looking to finish it off, it's Raza.
Absolutely superb Grandmaster level Terran play we've seen so far. That Hellion drop, just beautiful. The way he, you know, micros those Hellions and picks them up, and he kept those Hellions alive so much longer. I wanted to go and look at what RosscO was doing in his base, but there was constant action. I couldn't look away from it because he was just keeping them alive for so much longer than they should have been.
Yeah, really solid play coming out of Raza today.
So RosscO, once again, just going for that pretty standard positioning, going to go for potentially another aggressive opening. And interesting to see RosscO, once again, just it seems like this is just sort of standard for him, is sending this probe in to check for proxies. Maybe this is where the logical place for a proxy marauder is, or something like that. I don't think that he himself will be proxying anything. I think this is just a safety scout.
Yeah, I agree. And Raza's not, you know, shy of cheesing or dropping down some barracks on the map every now and again. So I think it's worth, you know, you're not going to delay the probe that too much. So it's definitely worth doing for RosscO.
Yeah, he doesn't really care about, you know, harassing the SCV or anything like that. If anything, he is going to want to get to the low ground here to block this natural. If he's going to be aggressive with the first adept, it's quite crucial that you get that block. But the SCV is going to be able to start the command center, and RosscO just going to take his lumps and go home, keep this probe alive, and hopefully get a later scout on to make sure that he isn't going to get bamboozled by proxy Hellions again.
And interestingly enough, this time it's reactor first from Raza, which is a slight deviation to the first 2 builds, I believe. So this might actually be the double. No, it's double marine. Okay, playing nice and safe.
Yeah, I've seen a few variations of this. I think it's really nice to get this early reactor to have just a big unit count. So there's a couple of pushes that use this. So you can go for a 3 racks. It just can be really, really scary when you open for a reactor first. But instead, I think he might go for some sort of a Hellion Marine push, which can be really, really frustrating to deal with because you just don't have the units as a Protoss player.
And it's an interesting change-up after the damage that the Adept did last game, in that the reactor first opening really shuts down any of this initial Adept play, because you're going to be having 4 to 6 Marines out by the time that the Adept gets across the map.
Yeah, and so as we can see, he's actually already got the 4 Marines. So as soon as this Adept gets anywhere near this base, he's just going to get shot at by 4 Gauss rifles.
He's actually going to meet him on the map. So I think Raza was actually going to go across the map and see if he could get any initial probe kills if the Adept wasn't there.
Looks like the Adept is going to finish his shade in the natural of Raza, but Raza realizes how close he is to this Adept's death, and he's just going to stutter step these Marines until he dies. And the Adept does go down, so nice little moral victory from Raza. He's not going to have to deal with any more pesky harassment, jumping in and out. He's going to be able to stabilize, keep most of his Marines alive, and even at pretty healthy levels of HP, only one of them is damaged. He's going to actually start pushing across the map pretty aggressively here. I don't know if he's going to be... Yeah, he's following up with 2 Hellions here, so he is going to be pushing out with a good chunk of Marines, and unfortunately, this Phoenix is just about going to miss it, and there is no battery for RosscO, and actually, we don't even see any units. We see 1 Stalker, 1 Sentry in the main, while 5, 6 Marines are walking in with 2 Hellions. There's just no wall. There's no way of blocking. Looks like with the warp in, though, just
really
in
nice warp in
time, RosscO's going to block this with a little bit of micro. But even then, all these Stalkers are going to go down. There's too much damage from these Marines. RosscO fighting his absolute hardest to make sure that these Marines get kited. But there's just way too much Protoss here. It's going to be a GG, and that is going to be a 3-0 for Raza. Were we in the game that whole time? Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, this is why we need Bradley. All right, sorry about that, guys. Looks like we were on the wrong scene the entire time. We didn't realize it. Yeah, because we're on a 3-minute delay. So sorry about that on the production side. I completely take the hit on that. I was in charge of the scene. So sorry about that, guys. That is going to be a 3-0. Hopefully my, our descriptive commentary gave you a visual idea of what was going on. But we are going to take a break now, and I'm going to go and whip myself several times. So yeah, apologies there. But we will be back in a short amount of time with the next series, so don't go too far. We'll be back with some more Epic Clan action with the actual game showing on the screen shortly. So,
thank you very much. Been great.